I will admit that I have always been a bit of a grocery shopping nerd. I have actually always kind of enjoyed going into the store, seeing what's new, what deals I can find, what bargains are available, and then coming home with a bunch of cool stuff to fill my family kitchen. But I can understand why this particular activity might elicit some anxiety on our parts over the last few months as we have seen food prices rise. So if saving money on groceries has always been a hot topic, it is a red hot topic now as people are looking for new ideas, any ideas on how to save money on groceries and keep our budgets in control. I happened upon an article on NerdWallet.com the other day, and that's a website that I have used many times to get some information about different products and resources, and also to vet sponsors that I work with here on the channel. So I was actually surprised to see an article on NerdWallet about saving money on groceries. And since I am going out grocery shopping today, my fridge is in desperate need of a restock. I thought I would bring this article along and we can go through it point by point. There are 14 tips that they give for saving money on groceries, and I can share with you what I think they got right, what I think they got wrong, what are new ideas to me that perhaps I haven't thought about before, and also what I think they completely left out. Tip number 1 is to shop your pantry. And you guys already know, if you watch my channel, that I am a huge fan of this. In fact, I have entire videos. I have an entire playlist full of dozens of videos devoted to the idea of using up what we have on hand and delaying a trip to the grocery store, which in turn delays spending money, which over the course of the year cuts out several grocery trips and can save us a lot of money in the long haul. And in order to get better about this in my household, I have had to think a lot of times, not necessarily about what I want, but what I need. I may want to eat a particular food or use a particular recipe in my meal plan for that week, but I actually have the ingredients for other meals already on hand. And if I'm being honest, sometimes I have been just a little bit entitled and wanted to go out and buy the stuff for the things that I want, not realizing that I have plenty of nourishing food already in my household. So it does take a little bit of discipline and sometimes a little bit of sacrifice, if not at least delayed gratification, to think about using the things we already have instead of purchasing more stuff from the grocery store just for the sake of having what we want. The second tip in the article is to limit your shopping trips. And by the way, I will leave this article linked in the description box below. You can check it out and the other articles and resources that NerdWallet has to offer. As I've said before, they've been a great resource for me in various ways. But limiting your shopping trips, yes, obviously this limits the opportunity to spend money. It limits the opportunity to impulse buy. I will be honest that this is something that I struggle with, and usually it has to do with either videos that I'm filming. I mean, it's sort of an occupational hazard that I find myself in grocery stores a lot. But even before I had my channel, when I found myself making frequent trips, it was usually because I had failed to make a plan. And put a pin in that because we're going to come back to it at the end of the video. Number 3 is stick to your list. And I am especially a fan of this if you are a person who struggles with impulse buying, or if you are just trying to get better about your overall kitchen organization. And of course, there are all kinds of list making apps out there that you can download. And I know a lot of people like to use smart devices like their Alexa or their Google Home to just ask their device to add something to their list as they run out of it across the week or across the month. I prefer to make my lists on paper because usually I'm making them alongside a meal plan. Or I also have 2 notepads that are hanging up inside of a cabinet in the kitchen. That way anybody in the family can add things to the list as they discover that they need them or as we run out of them. One of the lists is for food items and one of the lists is for non-food items. And this gives me something I can easily grab as I am running out of the house to run errands. And it gives a way for the kids and my husband to let me know things that they might need, because if they just tell me in the day-to-day, I'll probably forget when I'm in the store. Tip number 4 is to pay attention to prices. I mean, you can't get a good deal if you don't know what a good deal is, right? And this can be a little bit daunting at first if you've never been a person who pays attention to prices as you shop. It can take a few months worth of shopping trips and maybe visiting some different stores to start to get the hang of what a good deal is. and notice the differences in prices, not just from store to store, but from week to week and season to season as you start to learn about sales cycles. But taking note of the different prices on the items, especially items that you frequently purchase, and knowing what a good deal is so you can snag it when you see it, is definitely a good thing to figure out. Story time. I used to be a big couponer. I won't say that I had a wall of toothpaste or a closet full of toilet paper, but I was definitely one of those people who got multiple copies of the Sunday paper, and I would try to get the best deals possible, especially on personal care items, but also on food items. I am not as big of a couponer anymore, in part because we're seeing fewer coupons, and the values of the coupons I have noticed have gone down over the past decade, probably due to the large amount of coupon fraud that was being committed. The reason I tell you this story is because the 5th tip on NerdWallet's list is to buy the Sunday paper so that you can have the coupon inserts and then use those coupons to save money. And I have just found that the kinds of coupons, the amounts that the coupons are offering in discounts, it's just not worth it anymore for me to do that kind of couponing. I do, however, still use coupon apps and rebate apps. A lot of stores have their own apps where you can clip coupons directly from that app that they're offering in their store, and then you can just scan your code at checkout and it will give you the discount. And of course, there are tons of rebate apps out there that offer cash back on purchases that you're making, like Upside, who is sponsoring today's video. Upside is an app that you can download for free in Google Play or the App Store that gives you cash back when you make purchases at participating grocery stores and restaurants in your area. By the way, when you do go and download that app, make sure that you use my promo code Mindy, because you're gonna get a little something extra, but put a pin in that because we're gonna come back to it. Using the app is really easy. All you have to do is open it up on your phone, look at the offers that are available in your area, claim one, and then go to that place and make a purchase. And then sometimes you're prompted to upload a receipt, but I actually was able to just connect my payment method to my Upside account so it knows when I have made a purchase to claim an offer, and then it will add the rebate to my Upside account. And you guys know, if you watch my channel, because I mention it all the time, that the wheels on the mom van are a turnin' most evenings in this household. So gas is something that I'm going to be purchasing anyway. I might as well be getting cash back on my purchase, and then I could cash it out to my bank account or PayPal, but what I usually do is trade it in for a gift card at any one of a number of retailers that they offer in the Upside app. You can download the Upside app in Google Play or the App Store for free right now, and when you do, make sure that you use my code Mindy, because it's going to give you an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank of gas. Upside does have a 4.8 star rating in the App Store, and since we're talking about a NerdWallet article here in this video, I thought it was worth noting that NerdWallet does have a few articles listing Upside as a great app for getting cash back on gas. So again, you can visit the link in the description box below or go to Google Play or the App Store to download the Upside app for free. Make sure you use my code Mindy for an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank of gas. And thank you again to Upside for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to it. Another tip on this list that I'm not a huge fan of is to avoid online grocery shopping. I think if you know what a good deal is with all of the online grocery retailers out there, it's possible that you could find it at one of those sites. And with the added bonus of being able to shop from your computer and then have something delivered to your doorstep, it can also take away an extra opportunity for impulse buying if you were shopping in store. So again, I think this is kind of a mixed bag. I understand the point that they are trying to make, that sometimes you're going to get an upsell, or sometimes maybe you have to pay a membership fee for a certain kind of website that you're shopping at. But for the most part, I do think that if you practice some of these other tips, you can find some good deals at online grocery retailers. The 7th tip in this article is to calculate your burn rate. And the way I have put that before is to be a good steward. It's talking about using the food that you have in a responsible way and making sure that you know about how often you need to purchase the items that you frequently buy and keep on hand in your household so that nothing goes to waste. For instance, in my household, it always seems like a good idea to buy the big container of salad greens from Sam's Club or from Walmart, because it's like less than $5 for a bunch of salad greens, but we never seem to be able to use those up. So I'm actually wasting money by not calculating my burn rate correctly and not being honest about the size of package that I need to purchase of that particular item. And that can apply to lots of different purchases that we make across the board. If we are not using the food that we purchase in a timely manner before it spoils, then we're basically wasting money. The 8th tip in the NerdWallet article is to follow your favorite brands on social media and sign up for their mailing lists. Personally, I think this is not worth the extra spam that I'm going to get in my inbox. It can also lead to impulse purchases, I think, because it creates this level of anxiety when we get an email with a coupon or a deal alert. And even if it's not something that I need specifically at that time, I might think, oh, well, I've got to get it now because it's on sale, and it ends up busting my budget. The exception to this rule for me is on very specific items or with specific companies, things like baby formula or maybe certain over-the-counter medications that are part of our regimen. It can be helpful for those higher ticket items that we frequently purchase to be on mailing lists or to get coupons or offers sent to our inbox. But for the most part, it's not something that I practice routinely because, again, I find that it leads to sort of a shopping FOMO, and I fear like I'm gonna miss out on a deal if I don't take advantage of it right then, which can lead to a lot of impulse purchasing. I cannot believe we had to make it to number 9 on the list before talking about this next tip, because it's actually probably one of my top 3, and that is purchasing or trying out generic or house brands. If you've watched my channel for very long at all, you know that I agree with NerdWallet on this point because I have harped on it so many times in so many different videos, but we are typically paying a pretty big markup for name brands. And while I think it is okay to be brand loyal on a few items, I do understand that sometimes a taste or a texture or a quality that we are looking for is just there in the name brand and we just don't find it in the generic house brand. I do think for the most part, it's a good idea to give generic brands a try, especially the simpler the item is or the shorter the ingredient list is. You know, for instance, I've often used the example of Oreos. I think Oreos are very difficult to duplicate, to mimic. I just think it's a very singular taste and texture. But canned green beans, not so much. So those simple things that are in our pantry like canned goods and pasta and even, you know, certain grains and cereals, I think it's a good cost-saving measure to look at purchasing those things in generic brands. NerdWallet's 10th tip in this article is a bit of a hot button topic because they suggest to use credit cards strategically. And it's talking specifically about cards that offer incentives for spending like cash back or points that you can accrue towards travel expenses or other rewards. And I know there are a lot of very strong opinions about credit cards, and I will just tell you that my husband and I have used credit cards basically like a debit card for our entire marriage. We do keep a budget, we keep track of our spending, we pay our cards off at the end of every month, and as a result, we have actually accrued enough points to take so many vacations, dozens of trips where we have been able to pay for our flights, for our hotels. We've even been able to trade these points in for gift cards, and we do have some cards that have cashback offers as well. But, and you knew there would be a but, right? I do think you have to be a very disciplined person financially to use credit cards in the best possible way so that you can pay them off at the end of every month so you don't accrue any interest. And also keep track of your expenses and make sure that you are sticking with the budget that you have allotted in various categories across your household. Plus, playing the credit card game usually requires a certain level of organization because you have to keep track of the cards that you have, how many cards you have opened across a certain number of months, when the annual fees are due, and whether or not it's worth it, you know, when you take into account the rewards that they're offering to actually pay that annual fee. There are entire websites, channels, influencers that specifically talk about this strategy, and if you are interested in getting into it, I highly suggest that you do your research and just be careful. Be honest about the kind of spender that you are, and if you are a person who is not really disciplined and organized, then utilizing credit card points and rewards might not be the best option to keep your budget under control. But if you are that kind of person, there can be some really fantastic incentives for spending money on things that you're already purchasing, like gas and groceries. Number 11 is to establish your, quote, supermarket circuit. And I think what this is getting at is shopping at multiple stores so you can buy different things at different stores based on where you can get the best price. I am a fan of this and I do this, but there are a couple of caveats to it. Number one is you really need to think about not creating extra work for yourself or extra driving for yourself, because obviously gas costs money as well. So I typically do this in areas where there are lots of stores next to each other. For instance, I'm sitting outside of Aldi right now. I'm about to go in and start my shopping here, and then I'm going to go over to Walmart to get a couple of things as well. There's also a Sprouts next door and a Target down the street and a Costco across the street. So this is a place where it would make sense for me to go in and out of different stores for various items. The other thing to think about is considering your day-to-day or week-to-week routes. Like, what are places that are on the way home from work? What are places that are on the way home from the baseball field or from that soccer game? Because time is also a very valuable resource that we all have to budget. And I think it sort of not only negates the money we're saving on groceries if we're spending extra money on gas driving places, but it can be really tedious and not a habit that we can keep up if we're spending a ton of extra time in our car making special trips just to get, you know, a better price at a farther away grocery store. I just arrived at Walmart to make a few more purchases on this grocery trip, and Walmart owns Sam's Club, which brings me to the next tip on the list, which is to invest in a wholesale club membership so you can attempt to save money by purchasing items in bulk. And I actually disagree with NerdWallet on this one. I think that wholesale membership clubs can be an absolute trap. It's something that I think people immediately go to when they think about saving money. Oh, I've got to get a Costco membership or a Sam's Club membership. I think some of you have BJ's Wholesale as well. But you really need to practice a high level of discipline and organization to make that work for you in the long run. Because wholesale clubs are the types of places where we tend to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in a single trip. So you really have to know the things that are a good price per unit that your family can use up in a timely manner. And you have to avoid all of the impulse purchases because wholesale clubs are riddled with them. There is a reason, I think, why Sam's Club puts the toilet paper in the back of the store. It's because in order to get to the toilet paper, I have to walk by the seasonal items like Christmas trees and patio furniture, and I have to walk by all of the snacks and candy, and I have to walk by all of the free samples they're giving out that are right next to the product that they want me to purchase. So personally, I think, especially if you're just starting out, focus on some of the other things that we're mentioning here before you jump into the wholesale club membership. I'm just not sure that it's worth it over the long haul unless you own a business or have a very large family. I actually talked about this next one in a recent video, and that is to be aware of the price per unit or the price per ounce or the price per pound. Sometimes it's easy to think that one package or one brand or another is a better deal than the one sitting next to it on the shelf, but you really have to pay attention to what's actually in the package, because sometimes when you look at the price and you break it down according to ounce or pound or item, you're actually getting less in one package than in another. And this is especially something to be aware of now, as NerdWallet points out, because of the concept of shrinkflation. This is where they are keeping a specific item the same price, but they are reducing the amount of product in the package compared to what they used to put in it at that same price several months ago. So watch out for shrinkflation. Be aware of the price per unit or the price per pound or ounce. Definitely good advice. The last tip in the article is one that I have mentioned before, but really just in passing, and it's probably something that we don't talk about enough when we are talking about shopping sales, and that is understanding sales cycles. Now, this means a few different things. Some stores run weekly sales, like for traditional grocery stores, it's usually from Wednesday one week to the following Tuesday. For some places like Target and Dollar General and the pharmacies like Walgreens and CVS, it's usually a Sunday through Saturday sale. And that's when specific items will be a lower price than they traditionally are, and sometimes they run other kinds of specials and rewards offers with those discounts. But sales can also be seasonal, meaning over the course of the year, there are certain times when certain items might be the best possible price. And I don't just mean holiday items like Easter candy and Christmas cards. I mean like how in the springtime, a lot of cleaning items and organizational items and household cleaning products might go on sale, or they might offer specific bundles of items within a deal because it's, springtime and people are doing spring cleaning. During February, when the Super Bowl is happening, I noticed that a lot of things like frozen pizzas and soda and chips go on sale. And around the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, you might see lots of sales on baking items and stocking up your flour and sugar and chocolate chips and different items that we might be using for holiday cooking. Now that I've gone through the list and I've given you my brutal opinion about what I think of it, let me give you a few ideas that I think were left off of this list that also need to be considered if you want to save money on groceries. Starting with the one habit upon which all of these other money-saving ideas really hinge. I don't think that you can save a lot of money using these tips if you don't do this thing first, and that is create a meal plan or find a meal planning strategy that works for you. I think it can be overwhelming when we think about a meal plan as being, okay, I'm going to plan out exactly what we are eating on Monday and then exactly what we are eating on Tuesday. And while that works for some people to have an exact plan for the week or even for the month, I know people who meal plan for an entire month at a time, sometimes that's just not realistic for some of us. The way I meal plan, I mean, a lot of it is based on the videos that I'm filming, so I know that that's kind of comparing apples to oranges, but even before I had this channel, a lot of times I would just pick 3 or 4 meals that I wanted to make for the week and make sure that I had those ingredients on hand. And then throughout the week, as you know, the ebb and flow of work and school and family life is happening, I can choose what works best for us on what night. Some people also like to use meal planning apps, and other people maybe just like to have some ingredients on hand for a short repertoire of recipes. Like maybe you have a dozen or so recipes that you know work and you just keep those ingredients on hand, so you always have something to cook from home. I've actually taken that idea, I call it a capsule meal plan. I've made 2 different videos about that where I take 20 ingredients and make recipes just from those ingredients. I'll leave those videos and their accompanying ebooks linked in the description box below if that is the style of meal planning that is attractive to you. But the point is, find a meal planning style that works for you, whether it's something that is super strict and rigid that you know you're gonna stick to, or maybe something that's a little bit more loosey-goosey and gives you some wiggle room throughout the week. But make a plan, make a meal plan, or else a lot of these other tips and tricks are just kind of a moot point. And the last tip might seem kind of odd, but I really do think it helps when it comes to saving money over time, and that is to keep your spaces organized, especially your fridge and your pantry, because if we can't see it, then we often won't use it or won't eat it, and then sometimes it ends up spoiling or going to waste. So usually before I go to the grocery store, as I'm checking out my pantry and fridge for what I already have on hand and things that I don't need to buy, I will often just do a quick little tidy up, maybe throw away any empty packages or condense some packages of things. And this doesn't mean that you have to go out and buy a whole bunch of baskets and bins and put everything into clear containers or anything like that. I just mean being a little bit intentional with how you store things, keeping everything tidy, making sure that like the lunch packing things are where the kids can see them, and that the open packages are in the front and the unopened packages are in the back, so we don't have 2 packages of the same item open at the same time. It doesn't have to be anything super fancy. You don't have to spend a lot of money to do it, but just being intentional with the way that our spaces function for us as far as food storage goes, so that we make sure that we're using everything in a timely manner and we're not purchasing anything we already have. Check out Upside and Google Play or the App Store. They're also linked in the description box below. Watch one of these videos next. I'll see you there.